Hi, everyone, and welcome to another Career Talk session by Grad Australia. I'm Emily, and I'll be your host for today. So I'd like to begin today's session with an acknowledgement of the country as we gather for this meeting, physically dispersed and virtually constructed. Let us take a moment to reflect the meaning of place, and by doing so, recognize the various traditional lands on which we do our business today. We acknowledge the elders, past and present, of all the land we work and live on, and their ancestral spirits with gratitude and respect. We extend this respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. I'm joining the call from Brisbane, which is the traditional land of the Turrbal people. So to introduce myself and Grad Australia, Grad Australia is a career website where you can get a backstage view to see graduate employers. You can see what it's like to work in their organization. You can apply for programs that are suited to you. You can also sign up and get notified of open applications and opportunities you can apply to. So this session today is actually titled Pursuing a Career in Advisory, from Consulting, Explore the Vast Amount of Opportunities in Advisory. We're very lucky to have one guest joining us today to provide a bunch of valuable insights and guidance in this area. So from William Buck, we have Byron Bushby, who is the manager of business advisory. So Byron, I just want to let you introduce yourself.
Thanks, Emily. Lovely to see you all. As Emily said, my name is Byron. I'm a manager in the business advisory team here in William Buck in Melbourne. Been working here for, I think, 6 years now. So yeah, just ticked over the 6-year mark. It's been a good 6 years, so I'm happy to say that's the case. Not a lot of people would necessarily say that after 6 years of working at the same place, but it's been great for me. So yeah, lovely to see you all, and I'm looking forward to today's chat.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So to start off, I just wanted to ask you to share a little bit about your professional background and how you joined William Buck / how you got here to where you are today.
Yeah, sure thing. Look, I'll be honest. I went to uni like everyone else sort of does. Wasn't 100% certain of what I was going to do. I actually did a Bachelor of International Studies and Commerce. I thought I was going to become Prime Minister. I don't think that's no longer the case for me, unfortunately. So in the end, I just sort of turned towards accounting. Had a couple of friends who'd gotten into accounting along the way. They sort of suggested that I start applying for jobs, and that got me to the entry level where it all sort of begins, and sort of just continued working my way through everything. Luckily enough, here at William Buck, we have a pretty big team. So there's 150 of us here in Melbourne, and then we have offices throughout Australia, all in varying sizes and shapes. So from there, kind of just kept progressing onwards, realized I actually enjoyed what I was doing, which was the main part to it all. I think if you enjoy what you're doing, it makes a really big difference overall. And I was really fortunate enough to continue to progress as I've experienced more and more.
Awesome. And was there anything that drew you to advisory that actually made you to go and decide to pursue it?
Yeah, for sure. I think the way they sort of explain accounting and advisory at uni is very different to the real world. At the end of the day, I think the course and stuff you have to do at uni makes it more of a generic approach, which is the best way of doing it, I still believe. However, once you get into the nuts and bolts of it all, when you start your career, you begin to realize that you are helping people out and assisting them with their business expertise, assisting them with your business expertise, which is often something they're overall lacking. And you get this, I guess, a view of the world, and you get to help out people with things they don't quite understand, and they are really quite thankful for that and the knowledge you do bring to them. So yeah, for me, that was the main thing, is that I was helping people out, giving them my knowledge to allow them to achieve all of their goals as well.
Awesome. So I'll start to jump into some of our guided questions that we have, but if anyone watching has any questions at all, feel free to just pop them in the comments and we'll get to them throughout the webinar. So just to go through my questions. So let's start off by talking just a bit about what a day in the life is in advisory. So what's your day-to-day like?
So I think for me personally, I don't like the monotony of often some of the things we tend to do. I'm not very good at sitting still, so that's not really what I like. So thankfully for me and my role, and the role of many others here, is that every day is different to the last. So we're very fortunate in that regard. So for example, it just really depends on the time of year and also what the client's needs are at any given time. Today, for example, I actually haven't done a whole lot of work. We had a couple of internal meetings, had a big firm meeting, which was really good to see, to discuss the way the firm's moving forward into the future. I've got a couple of meetings later this afternoon discussing some international tax law and how that's going to work for a client. When you first start, I guess, in the advisory world, you do tend to do a bit more of the day-to-day basics. So things like financial statements, tax returns, BAS, that sort of stuff. So more of that ATO compliance. Then as you sort of progress, that job and that role of yours also progresses. You'll tend to attend more client meetings. You'll get more phone calls from clients who are all of a sudden needing something done today and needing your advice on how that can get done. And then all the way from the business life cycle. So, from infancy in terms of the initial setup of the entity, and then all the way through to the eventual sale and the client sailing off into the horizon, into their retirement, which is, I guess, the end goal for everyone, is to allow clients to be able to do that and have the ability to do that. And it's a really nice feeling overall.
Awesome. And I think you kind of touched on it just then, but you mentioned how, you get those phone calls and things like that, which I can imagine can be very, you need good time management skills for those kind of things. So was there any skills that you think are necessary for career in advisory, for example, time management?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we, as an industry, understand that when graduates start up, they are pretty raw overall. They don't know the nuts and bolts of it all, and we don't expect them to know the nuts and bolts of it all. So there's a lot of on-the-job learning and on-the-job training in relation to that. So we don't expect you to know how to do a tax return or anything like that, and you kind of learn them along the way. Time management skills are an important one, but again, we will help with those sorts of things. My time management skills can definitely use some work, so I can't pretend that I'm really good at that at the same time. Good people skills is definitely a main one that we definitely look at in all of our grads. People are at the center of advisory work. Whilst we are accountants, we're a people business at the end of the day. So staff and clients are our main focus. So good people skills is a big one. Ability to work well in a team. So knowing your role, understanding how to work well with people, when to ask them questions, maybe not when to ask them questions if they're on the phone, for example. Those sorts of things. Resourcefulness and problem solving is also a really important one. If you can sort of understand what's been asked of you and how to work through that problem and get to a result, not necessarily the right result, but at least understand how to get to a result overall. Those are important skills. And then I guess lastly, a genuine interest really does help as well. Makes such a big difference if you're actually interested in what you're doing. So yeah, so there's some of the more soft skills, I guess, is what we refer to them as rather. So they're really important as we look for people to come in and take a new grad role with us.
Awesome. Is there anything that graduates can sort of go through, for example, like a checklist that they can go through to kind of figure out whether a career in advisory suits them?
I guess it sort of just depends on the individual. I wouldn't say there's necessarily a checklist. I think I'm not good at numbers, so it's a bit rich of me to say this, but if you are good at numbers, a career in advisory and accounting may well be for you. But I guess if you have a genuine interest in helping people continue their own business journey, then yeah, advisory is a great place for you to start. May not be for everyone, and it may be one of those things that you pick up for a couple of years and then decide to move on. But yeah, whether it's a genuine checklist, I'm not sure. If you find one, Emily, let me know, because maybe I'll be able to tick off a few items to myself.
Awesome. Okay, great. So let's talk about something that I feel like probably is a bit confusing to a bunch of graduates, which is, what is the difference between consulting and advisory?
Yeah, for sure. So it's a fine difference. I think overall they are relatively similar. From our point of view, advisory is more where you assist a client from the outset and continue to assist the client through their entire journey in business. Consulting, we tend to see more done on a project by project basis. So for example, some of the big four banks will hire accountants or an advisory firm to assist them with overall projects, and they'll assist from the beginning of that project all the way through to the end, and then sort of move on to the next one. Where in the advisory role we do, particularly in business advisory, we tend to help a client from the outset, be it a small two-man team or a mum and dad firm, for example, all the way through to them with their employees on every facet of their business. And then, like I was saying before, hopefully all the way through to their retirement.
Awesome. Do you feel like that gives you like a really good, just connection with who you work with as well?
Absolutely. So it gives you a great connection with the client themselves. For example, my boss here, he was an accountant for longer than I've been alive, which he hates when I bring that one up, of course. So he's seen the life cycle happen really well. And now I'm actually assisting with some of his clients' kids as they start their own businesses as well. So you do form a pretty deep connection with the client, help them with various questions from buying a new house to setting up a bank account for their kids or a TFN, for example. So you do develop a really deep connection with the client. And then from a people point of view, from my colleagues and whatnot, you do tend to work with them, 8-9 hours a day, 5 days a week. So you develop a really good connection with them as well. With the amount of time we spend with them, like I was saying, you have no choice but to become friends with them, I guess some would say. But we develop really good friendships along the way, help each other out with any work-related and often non-work related questions as and when required. So yeah, the connections you form both internally within the firm and then externally with clients are really important and really valuable.
Awesome. Sounds super lovely. Okay, so just talking a little bit about, I guess, consulting and that kind of stuff. What are the different industries that you can consult in? What are the most common industries as well?
Yeah, well, I think every industry in the world really needs an accountant or a consultant to assist with their day-to-day work. So there's not really an industry that won't have a need for us. And there's also not really an industry that's the most common. I guess, for an example, some of the clients I work on, there's a bit of property and construction. Got a couple clients in media and advertising. There's the medical industry, manufacturing. I've got a couple clients that are actually art dealers, which has been really interesting of late. So they do all the art world and stuff, which I have no idea of what that is, but I've had to really pick that up pretty quickly to assist them with the different things that they need help with. I think from there, you can kind of pick your own specialization or more of a focus for yourself. That's actually one of my goals for this year, is to actually pick my own sort of specialization and start to hone in on that a little bit better. I was having to chat to one of the directors here today, actually, and he was saying that a specialization takes about 5 or 6 years to understand and really get a greater grip on it. So for all those grads out there, don't think you need a specialization straight away. One of the things you might think you want to specialize in will change in a couple of years' time. I used to spend a fair bit of time in hospitality, then moved to more property and construction, and I've sort of come full circle and spending a bit more time in hospitality now with a couple of cafes and stuff like that. So it's forever changing, but it's important if you do find, I guess, something that you have an interest in. It makes a big difference because you'll be able to grasp it a bit quicker, get a greater understanding of it all, and then continue on with that as well.
Awesome. So just touching off that, did you have any tips on how graduates, or even once they start their career down the track, can sort of figure out where they want to specialize in?
Yeah, absolutely. If you've got an interest in it, that's the easiest part to it all. Even if it's a faint interest and I don't know, maybe your parents work in that sort of field, it makes a bit of a difference then because you've got someone you can really talk to and bounce ideas off and whatnot. So I think for any grad out there that has a keen interest in anything, be it, I don't know, hospitality, property, sport, even, for example, it's a great way to start and to start to develop either that interest further or sadly may even realize it's not the one for you. There's no one's out there saying that you can't change your mind 5 years down the track, 10 years down the track, or 6 months down the track. So you can definitely begin to develop an industry focus or a specialization and change it along the way. Some people are fortunate enough to get there early. I'm not one of those at the moment, but who knows? Maybe the next time I do this talk, I'll have a specialization.
Do graduates at William Buck, do they get quite a big opportunity to test out the different industries and dip their toes into it?
Yeah, absolutely. So generally when a graduate will start, they'll get assigned to a team within the division of business advisory, say they do go down the business advisory route. And what will happen is they'll get a real I guess, baptism of fire in terms of the different industries they'll work on. It's just a matter of finding the right job for them overall in terms of working through that with the client. It won't be the same sort of industry as we go along because we just do work on so many different industries overall. So there's no week, like I was saying before, no day is the same to the last. For the grads, that's always the case as well. So they'll work across a various range of industries, and from there, hopefully start to work out a specialization or something that's of interest to them, and then continue what that one on their way forward for the rest of their journey, I guess.
Awesome. I know you said no day is the same, but I'm going to ask you what's a day like as a grad. So what's kind of the day-to-day life of a grad at William Buck? What are the things they'd be working on? What would they be learning? Just give us some insight into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So for grads, we found that if you tend to give them more of the nuts and bolts of accounting and advisory, they get to learn a lot more quickly, and then we'll hold that in good stead for the rest of their career. So they do spend a bit of time early on doing, your tax returns for your individuals. So for example, Emily, if you came along as a client, one of the grads would be assisting one of the managers here with your personal tax return and sort of working through that. And then over the next few years, they'll end up being hopefully the manager on your own tax return as well, and getting the next lot of grads coming through with that one. From tax returns, you sort of do, your business activity statements, your financial statements, and continuing on from there. And then depending on what sort of project comes up or what sort of client concerns there are into the future, the grad will work on those as well. But yeah, there is definitely a period of the first 6 to 12 months where there is more of just the compliance side of things, giving the grads the confidence to understand what's actually going on, and then also not throwing them too much in the deep end with calling clients and calling the ATO too early on, because we don't want them to have those uncomfortable conversations or anything like that. So I guess the first 6 to 12 months are much of a muchness. From there, for grads, we then tend to look at them undertaking the CA or the CPA program. So for those of you out there who are looking at accounting world, that's essentially just a 3-year course. So 3 years of actual private practice, and then 2 years of study, or 18 months of study, depends how quickly you can get it done. And then that's your sort of first 3 years. From that, you tend to become a pretty well-rounded accountant or advisor, and then continue the rest of your journey from there.
Awesome. And what kind of support system do the grads have as they go through the program?
Yeah, so in terms of just the program from a William Buck perspective, not including the CA or the CPA side of things, but each graduate that comes to William Buck, be it business advisory or audit or corporate advisory, whatever team they end up in, they're all assigned a buddy, a manager, and a director. So automatically they've got 3 people within their team they can contact for any sort of questions. And then also the greater team will assist them the whole way through as well. The buddy and the manager tend to stay on with the grad for at least the first 12 months at the very minimum, and then continue on from there as well. We've also got, the P&C team, so the people and culture team, where there's 4 or 5 people there that will help out with any queries. So that can be something as simple as where do I park my bike of a morning if I ride into work, all the way through to how do I take holidays, where do we go for lunch, where's the best coffee, all those sorts of things. And then in terms of the CA and the CPA program, we do offer a range of support depending on what program you pick as well. So we have study days for whenever you get close to exams. Get 3 or 4 days off during that period to allow you the time to study for that one. At the end of the day, we want to see our staff succeed, and passing their CA and CPA exams is definitely an example of that. So a couple of days off are always helpful in that regard. We'll also run various seminars and stuff like that by staff, for staff, to assist them with their studies. So each year, we have more and more graduates who continue to do each subject. So they'll then pass that knowledge on to the next batch of grads coming through and really help them through all of that. So it's definitely one of those things that overall we want to see the grads succeed, because it's good for them, it's good for us. So we definitely want to put a lot of effort into that.
Awesome. Sounds really impressive. The 3 to 4 study days. Wow. I think
that's definitely
do that.
It's definitely a highlight for everyone when they get a couple of days off to go off and study and get themselves ready. Whether they do it best, I didn't probably use my study days as well as I could have, but at the end of the day, I still passed. That's all that mattered. So the couple of days off were quite good.
No, definitely. That's such a massive pro. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about grads. What about career progression? What kind of career progression can they expect from, initially joining the William Buck graduate program?
Yeah, so our grads tend to progress every 6 to 12 months as they go along. So we have the graduate to an intermediate, intermediate 2, 3, 4, etc., and then all the way to a senior accountant. The senior accountant starts once they finish their CA or their CPA, and have done 3 years of service. From there, it's based on merit overall. So you can really only get out what you put in. Like I was saying before, we want to see staff succeed. We're in the people business, and that's clients and staff overall. So we really want to see people succeed and continue to progress in their career. So from the senior program, it's all the way through to assistant manager, manager, senior managers, and hopefully get towards a director level at the end of the day. But as I was saying, you get out what you put in. Everyone will give you the opportunity to continue to progress because, it works out better for everyone.
Awesome. And did you have any sort of tips or suggestions for grads applying to William Buck? Can you shed light on, potentially like the application process or any tips on how they could stand out during the interviews?
Yeah, so in terms of the application process rather, it's online to begin with. So you'll send through your resume. We then do a testing centre where we run through the grads through various logical reasoning tests, some numerical testing as well, and then we get to the interview stage. So there's a phone interview to begin with, and then we actually do a face-to-face interview as well. I've been fortunate enough to be involved in the face-to-face interviews this year. The thing that stands out, to be perfectly honest, is people that are honest and actually can hold a good conversation. So we're not too fussed about everyone's accounting skills and all those sorts of things. They'll come along as we continue to progress in the career as a graduate. But definitely, if you're able to hold a conversation with everyone, we get along well with you. It's definitely more personality based and everything in that sense, in that we just want to make sure that everyone's comfortable being with us. Because as I was saying here, you spend 8 hours a day here. You definitely want to be able to spend time with people you're comfortable with. And that goes not just from me being comfortable with a new grad, but also we want to ensure the new graduates are comfortable with the staff as well. As I was saying earlier, with the buddy system, we put a lot of time and effort into ensuring that the right grads are set up with the right buddies, because we want to see people prosper and continue to do well, and having someone that they feel comfortable with, willing to ask questions of, it's really quite important overall. So there's no right or wrong answer in terms of what you do in your interviews and your process. I wish I knew the perfect looking resume, because it would help me in the long run as well. But it's more about who you are and I guess what you can kind of bring to the table.
Awesome. And with your graduate program, do you typically take, what kind of background do you usually take students from?
Yeah, so generally students that have done a commerce background is a great way to start, particularly for the audit and the advisory side of things. Anyone that's done a finance background will more than likely join our wealth advisory team. So we've got a wealth advisory team here who work from the investment side of things all the way through to the estate planning sort of stuff as well. We've got a tax team here, so we'll take a number of lawyers each year as well who have an interest in tax law, and they'll work their way through that. We also have a corporate advisory team, so economics, that background definitely assists. But yeah, I think if you've done any form of commerce degree, you hold yourself in good stead overall to take a role here at William Buck, or at any accounting firm for that matter.
Did you have any suggestions or advice for people wanting to get into like accountancy or advisory, but they don't have a business degree?
I guess in those sort of instances, there's no harm in asking at the end of the day. You can always apply and kind of work through that with the people and culture team we have here. I'm sure the career advisors at each uni out there as well, and even maybe you guys at Grad Australia can definitely help with some of those queries as well. If you are looking to change from, say, I don't know, you wanted to be a physio and then decide to become an accountant as well, there are various bridging courses that can be done to help you start that process overall. So I think the university is probably a great place to start with that one. Otherwise, you can definitely get in touch with an accounting firm out there and see if there's something that they can assist with. We've got a number of staff. One of the the staff members here, Jenny. She actually started in the myotherapy physio world and then made her way through to becoming an accountant. And she's now a principal, so she's one below a director. So it definitely can be done.
Awesome. So I think let's talk a little bit about a bit more about advisory now. So let's talk a bit about the pros and cons, even if you have any cons to say. But yes, can you share any pros and cons of working in accountancy/advisory?
Yeah, I think for me the period of time where it definitely brought out the pros and unfortunately the cons was COVID. I'm sure all of you had a really tough time either at uni or at the last few years of high school. For us in the accounting world, and hopefully I don't speak on behalf of all accountants, but it was really tough seeing clients struggle, particularly with the uncertainty that they were experiencing at that time. We were also uncertain. We were trying to understand what was going to happen to us, things like JobKeeper and whatnot. There was new legislation being written every day that we had to sort of work our way through at the end to understand and then to eventually advise all of our clients on that. It was both a pro and a con. It was good to be able to help various clients through that. A lot of stressful nights reading up on what the ATO had brought out, what the government had brought out. So I guess in that instance, the pros was getting clients through it. We had a number of clients who managed to not just survive that period of time, but also thrive or retool their business as they had more time to understand what was working for them and what wasn't working for them. And I guess move into more of a digital age overall. If you had said to me 4 years ago, I'd be doing a speech to various grads via Zoom, I would never have believed that one. So I think it did present opportunities regarding that. The cons though overall are, to see a couple of clients go under who'd been around forever and a day, that was really tough to see. And there was not a lot in the end of the day that we could try and do to help them. So it was just about minimizing their overall risk and helping them get through to the other side as best we could. So that was definitely one of the big cons overall. But hopefully for everyone out there, the pros do continue to outweigh the cons.
And do you want to share the pros?
Yeah, so I think just helping clients from a day-to-day basis, that's the main pro overall. You get to experience the ultimate highs with a couple of them. So, for example, a client recently sold a business that they sold their cafe and they made a really good deal out of it. And now they're going on to bigger and better things. It allowed them to buy their first home, which was a really important goal for them. And to be part of that journey with them was really quite fulfilling. Other clients, you see them eventually sell their business to their kids or be able to provide their kids with a home. That's really quite nice as well. And then I've got a couple of clients who've just really started up, and to see them, have a record year compared to the prior year and stuff like that, employ their first grad themselves, those sort of things are really quite nice. So there's definitely a lot of pros regarding that.
Awesome. That sounds very wholesome. It sounds very nice. Something I noticed that kind of keeps coming through is you mentioned the importance of, connecting with others. And then I can see that it's quite important in what you do as well. Like you share their wins as well. So is there anything or any suggestions you have on personal branding? I can imagine that it plays quite a big role in, just the day-to-day in your industry. So do you have any suggestions on how they can improve their personal branding or just what kind of role it plays in your day-to-day job?
Yeah, personal brand definitely does play a big role. One of the things to me, not just picking a specialization this year, was also doing these sorts of chats if they were available. So this is one way to get your personal brand out there. I still do think that the best way to get your personal brand out there is actually to listen more so than talk. You get the opportunity to listen to clients' needs or clients' concerns or even just staff concerns or just the average person on the street. You can tend to learn a lot from that. And actually sort of take that backward step, understand what's been asked of you, and then sort of work your way through it from there. But yeah, personal branding does play a big role in everything we do. You want to be seen to be a trusted advisor and someone that can really help everyone out, and getting that personal brand out there is really quite important overall. It doesn't necessarily come naturally to everyone talking about themselves. It's something I've definitely had to work on over the past few years. So yeah, it's a process overall, but it is something that is quite important. So I think for graduates, attending career nights is definitely a good place to start. I think that the uni still run them. I know the CA and CPA program also both run career nights throughout. Various sporting organizations will run the occasional event like that as well that you can definitely attend and get a greater exposure in that way, and then kind of build your own personal brand from that.
Awesome. Did you have any suggestions on how they can, just come across as more charismatic or build their personal brand in person as well? I know one thing that can be quite intimidating, especially, if they're going to these career nights, is just talking to people and having to put yourself out there as a student/graduate. It can be very intimidating. Any suggestions on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when I went to my first few, they're intimidating at the end of the day. If you can manage it, always go with a friend. It makes a big difference when you've got someone else there that you know and are comfortable with. It makes it easy for you to bounce off ideas off them, and I guess every so often meet back up with them as you go along throughout the process and debrief. I think one of the important things to me is once I kind of realized that everyone else is in the same position as you, everyone else is a little bit nervous. It makes it a little bit easier, a little less intimidating because you're not alone at the end of the day. So as soon as you can kind of work through that element to it all and remember that everyone else is going through the exact same experience as you, it makes it a lot easier. And then practice makes perfect. So the more you go to, the easier they become overall. You don't have to go in and meet every single person there. You don't have to walk out of there with a job necessarily. It's all about building up that experience and getting an understanding of who you are and sort of what you want to do as well. So yeah, practice makes perfect, and try and remember that you're not the only one having a tough time.
Definitely. I think that's always a really calming thought to have when you realize that everyone else is just, going through it as much as you are, and you're not all in your head, because I think, that just really helps calm you down and not take everything so seriously. Just off that, I also wanted to talk a little bit about so just building relationships at work as well, because that's also really important. It's not just, everyone outside, it's people inside as well. So do you have any suggestions and tips on how graduates can build relationships with their senior members or whoever is taking care of them in the field?
Yeah, absolutely. Asking questions is the easiest way to start in that regard. I know it's one of those age-old adages or whatever it's called, where it's no question is a bad question, but ultimately it is true. The more questions you ask, the more you try to understand, the more people will be able to help you. You're the only one that sort of doesn't know what you don't know. So if you can ask those questions of people, particularly the senior staff, or in this instance, your buddy, you'll be able to get those answers and continue to work more closely with them and understand sort of how they work, and then either model your behavior off the good things they do or not so good things they do as well, and kind of give you that more well-rounded approach to everything. But yeah, as the more questions you ask, just remember they're there to help you as well. I think I've mentioned it a few times now, but we want to see everyone continue to grow and continue to prosper overall, because it benefits everyone in the long run. So we're the people business. I know I've mentioned that one before, but we want to see people continue to do well. Asking questions makes up a big component of that. So don't be too concerned or too put off by, the people walking around you. Just ask them for the 10 minutes of their time, run them through a quick couple of questions, introduce yourself, and kind of take it from there.
Awesome. Okay. That sounds great. Let's chat a bit about the interviews, or the job application process. So when they're going through it, do you have any suggestions on how they can respond to a question that they don't know the answer to?
Yeah, I think repeating the question back to someone's a really great place to start, as you try and remember an example from your past that you can kind of bring forward in relation to that one. Often interviewers will try and throw out some curly questions just to try and see how you, I guess, operate and how you respond to those. They are just a test to see how, if you are unflappable at the end of the day, if you kind of panic under that pressure. So yeah, I think repeating the question back, asking them for more information about it as well is a really good way, a good tool that you can use overall. I wouldn't recommend you kind of just talk about something else. Just try and actually get back to what the essence of the question is. And yeah, like I was saying before, there's no harm in asking a follow-up question. to it all as well, and try and get a greater understanding of it.
Do you have any suggested questions that graduates should actually ask the employers / hiring managers to figure out whether the company is a right fit for them?
Yeah, I think the website is generally a great place to start. You get an idea of who the firm is and what they do. From there, you can kind of ask more general questions. You've already asked a couple of great ones today, Emily, in terms of what's the day-to-day life like, what's the culture of the firm like, what are the people like. You've got to remember that when you're a grad and applying for jobs, it's not just you the right firm looking for you. It's you also looking for the right firm. You've got to be comfortable in what you do. You've actually got to enjoy your time there, and also go to a firm that you think will help further your career and help further who you are as a person. So it's just as much the firm giving themselves an interview as it is you interviewing yourself. So I think that's an important thing to take out of it. Ensure that the firm you do go to is the right pick for you. So asking questions, like I said, the culture, who the people are and stuff like that makes a really big difference overall.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a mutual thing. Got to make sure that you like the company just as much as they like you. So yeah, asking heaps of questions is the way to go. Okay, so another question just on the application process. Do you have any suggestions on how they can prepare for the interview and how they can stand out in the interview?
Yeah, I think in terms of the preparation of it all, the website is a great place to start. If you can bring up different parts of the website, it makes a big difference in who the firm is. I don't expect you to know how many years William Buck's been around for example. Probably helps. It shows that you've read the landing page for us overall. But having an understanding, I guess, of what sort of role you are going for. So that'd be understanding the differences in the divisions, being, business advisory or audit are the two main ones. So understanding that different element to it all makes a big difference as well. In terms of standing out at the interview, I think it kind of comes back to just how confident you are and how do you hold yourself and hold an overall conversation. We're not looking for you to do a tax return right there and then. We're not looking for you to solve all the world's problems, but more so just how you fit in and I guess how you feel overall. I think they're the main parts to it. So take your time in the interviews. Try not to be nervous. I know they are quite a nerve-wracking experience. That's really all the advice I can give on that one.
No, that's awesome. I think, the website is definitely a great place to go. Super impressive when you can drop facts about the company. Okay, so we're just talking a little bit about, so once they've gotten the job, is there any things that you can suggest graduates should do, maybe 1 month, 3 months, 6 months to really make the most out of their graduate position?
Yeah, absolutely. The graduate position, it's not necessarily a tough one, but it's definitely a real change overall. For me, I'd never worked in an office before until I started working here. So having to wear a tie to the office was really a big change for me. Wearing a suit, all those sorts of things. So I think in that first month, you really tend to lean on your buddy and also your other graduates. Forming a really strong connection with them is important. A couple of grads I started with are still here to this day, and we've been friends for the last 5 or 6 years. So it is really important to, and also kind of nice to have that sort of stronger connection, not just on professionally, but also personally with those people you do work with, and those ones that you do start with as well. For us, I guess at William Buck, there's a really big onus on ensuring the graduates are comfortable because they're the future of the company, and we want to see them continue to do well. So we'll put various procedures in place to ensure that's the case. For example, we have what's known as a grad college, which runs in the first couple of months. You'll meet up with all of the various graduates from William Buck, not just in Australia, but also in New Zealand. This year, I think it was in Brisbane. They all went up to Brisbane, did a 3-day intensive seminar or course overall. So you kind of work through different case studies and stuff like that. Get to spend time outside of work also with the grads, which makes a big difference. And then from there, we have regular catch-up. So we'll have a 2-month catch-up, a 3-month catch-up, and then a 6-month catch-up all during that probation period, and then one at the 9-month and 12-month period as well. So the regular catch-ups are already there for you. But if you do have anything that you're unsure of, just asking questions of people is a great place to start. If you're not sure of your position overall, or if you're not sure this is the job for you, having those chats early make a big difference as well, because people can either help you with that sort of decision or kind of allay those fears and remind you that you are actually doing really well. It kind of comes back to that initial point, Emily, of what I was saying, where asking questions makes such a big difference. And we like to think that we also have the appropriate framework in place to ensure that grads feel that they can ask those questions and continue to do well.
Awesome. So just touching on, being in uni, do you have any sort of insights on how university students can get a head start if they're interested in pursuing a career in accountancy and advisory? So before they can actually apply to graduate programs, any suggestions on what they can do?
Yeah. So there's various vacationer programs, which tends to be, a 4 or 6 week roll over Christmas and into the new year. I actually did that as well. I was pretty fortunate to take up a vacationer role here at William Buck, and then I actually started my grad role a little bit earlier as a result of that. So those vacationer roles are invaluable. It gives you a 4 or 6 week intensive course or intensive look into what the role would be. You get to spend time with the people as well. And then generally those people that you spend those 6 weeks with are often the ones you then spend the graduate year with as well. So it makes a big difference and allows you to feel more comfortable in the long run and understand if this is the career for you as well, which is an important element to it. The vacationer programs are a really great place to start with that. In terms of other items, you'd be surprised how many people are looking at junior accountants at any given time to help out with the day-to-day running of their business. Applying for those sort of things can definitely assist. Back to those, I guess, career nights as well we were talking about, they really help. Coming to these sort of Grad Australia seminars make a big difference also because it gives you a more well-rounded view of everything. It's a tough one because I know that everyone also is going to be trying to do these things, but there's no harm in putting yourself out there overall.
When you were going through university, were you quite active in getting involved with, career talks and potentially joining clubs, all those kind of things? Was that something that you really prioritized?
I'll be honest with you, Emily, actually no, but my best friend at uni was really keen on those sorts of things. So he'd kind of drag me along to these things and I'm really grateful that he did. We actually got employed at William Buck at the same time as well. So really worked out well for us in the long run. He really prioritized those sorts of things. And as I was saying before, if you go into a careers night and you want to have someone else there with you, it makes a real big difference to take some of that awkwardness out of it. Also, he and I would go to all of those together and really helped us in the long run. So I can't say I was a model student in relation to that. I definitely didn't practice what I preach. So maybe don't do what I do, but sort of do what I say in that regard. But yeah, if you can prioritize those sorts of things, it makes a big difference overall and will hold you in good stead.
Awesome. Did you have any final advice for grads/students who are interested in advisory or accountancy?
I guess the best advice I've got overall is just sort of be like a sponge, I think is the phrase in relation to that one. Try and take as much in as possible, ask as many questions as possible, and kind of also just remember you got to make the right choice for you overall and work out what firm best works for you. Hopefully a couple of you will decide that William Buck's the right one there, and I'll get a couple more applications that come through in the next hour or so, but it's up to you guys at the end of the day. It's a big step. The gap between uni and first year of working is a really big one. I remember I'd get the train home at night and I'd be asleep within 5 minutes because I was just straight up exhausted. So it's definitely a big step, but it's a great step as well. So it really throws you into the real world and you kind of progress from there. But yeah, ask as many questions as you can, go to as many events as you can and just enjoy the ride.
Awesome. Well, I think we'll pretty much wrap it up there. That's a lot of the questions we wanted to get through, and we actually covered a lot. So I'm really happy with how much we covered. And, if you guys are still looking for more information on William Buck or, just the industry in general, then definitely go and check out their profile on Grad Australia. We've got it just below here, as you can see, or you can also just go to the website itself and search up William Buck as well. So thank you so much, Byron, for joining today. I'll just run through what you guys can expect for future webinars. So we host these webinars around 2 to 1 time a week. So we have so many different topics. We have CV building, we have maximizing your salary, we have industry specific ones like engineering or advisory, for example. So there's a bunch of really valuable webinars we have, and we always have really great employers coming on to share a little bit about themselves as well. So make sure you're taking a look at these. They're on our socials, they're also on our website, and even if it doesn't apply to you, make sure you share it with your friends, because I'm sure it'll apply to someone so just remember to set up a profile on Grad Australia. Once you set up a profile, you'll get notified of open job opportunities. You'll also get access to events that we host. You'll be on our email list for all those stuff, as well as our newsletter where we send out resources. And so that's basically it for today, everyone. If you guys have any questions for me, or if you have any questions for Byron, you can reach out to us. We both have LinkedIn, so reach out to us or contact us via our contact details, which I'll just pop up now. Or you can also reach out to William Buck and just contact them as well, or contact Grad Australia at gradaustralia.com.au or contact@prospel.com. So if you guys have any questions at all, feel free to shoot us a message. But that's it for today's webinar. We covered a bunch of things, and I think it was really valuable to anyone interested in advisory. So thanks so much, Byron, for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Awesome. See you, everyone.
Bye.